if you're going to a Southern barbecue, don't take this. You're going to get run out of town. Hey friends, I hope your week is off to a great start. Today we're going to be trying out another recipe from Claire Saffitz's cookbook Dessert Person, back to the savory chapter for this loaded cornbread. So I'm a huge fan of cornbread, and even though this recipe is not traditional as Claire notes in the recipe, it sounds absolutely delicious with all of these great flavors mixed in. So I'm really excited to give it a try, and without further ado, let's get right into it. I've got my cast iron skillet here over medium heat, and I'm melting down 5 tablespoons of butter until foamy. So first we're adding our bacon into this hot butter mixture, and we're going to cook the bacon for about 5 to 7 minutes until most of the fat is rendered out and we're left with a nice crispy bacon. If you're wondering why my bacon looks a little bit funny, it's because it's turkey bacon. Matthew doesn't eat pork, so I decided to customize the recipe here and swap 1 for 1 with turkey bacon. After 5 minutes, my turkey bacon is just picking up a little bit of color around the edges. However, it still doesn't look quite as crispy as I'd like it to be, so I'm going to let it go a bit longer. So it's been 7 minutes of cooking the turkey bacon, and I think I'm liking the appearance that we've got going on here. You can see that it's darkened up, it's gotten a little bit of crispy, I'm seeing some brown bits in the bottom of the pan. So we're in good shape and we can move on to the next step. All right, so now we're gonna add in our scallions, and I have cut these just roughly on the bias. Also adding in some jalapeno. These have been halved and then thinly sliced. And then last is corn, and you can see I'm using fresh corn here, so I've got the niblets cut off in big chunks. And we're going to stir this around for 5 to 7 minutes to get the aromatics nice and soft and fragrant and get that corn softened up a bit as well. So Claire did note that you can use either fresh or frozen corn for this recipe. However, when I made Molly's extra corny corn muffins a while back, I did try it with frozen corn the first time, and I really didn't like the taste and the texture that I got. The outside kind of skin that's on the kernels was super tough and rubbery, and I found that that rubberiness carried through even to the end baked results. So ever since that experience, I'm fresh corn all the way. However, that's just been my experience. So if you've had positive results with frozen corn, let me know in the comments down below what brand you're buying, and I'll give frozen corn another try. And after 7 minutes, we are in really good shape with this mixture. The onions have a nice tenderness to them. The jalapenos have a little bit of give and have softened up. The corn feels nice and tender and juicy. And obviously the bacon is super crispy and looks gorgeous. So now we'll just kill the heat and get to assembling the batter. So while we let the aromatics cool down a little bit, let's assemble the batter. So here in a large bowl, I've got my AP flour. To that, I'm adding my coarse cornmeal, along with baking powder, kosher salt, baking soda, freshly ground black pepper, and cayenne pepper. And we'll give this a whisk to get it evenly combined. All right, so that looks nice and evenly incorporated, so we can set this aside until we're ready for it. For the wet ingredients, I've got everything here at room temperature. And when I say room temperature, I mean truly room temperature. I learned my lesson from the French buttercream fiasco. So all of this stuff has been hanging out for a good 6 to 8 hours at room temperature. So it feels like nothing. It actually makes me borderline nervous from a food safety point of view. However, we're cooking it, so probably okay. But regardless, here I've got 2 eggs at room temperature. We're gonna whisk this to get them broken apart. And that looks good, nice and homogeneous, no streaks remaining. So here I've got my buttermilk, also at room temperature. Oh, so thick and lumpy. And I'll just get in here with my baby spatula to get everything scraped out really well. I remember Claire said this was one of her must-have kitchen tools, and I completely agree. Mine's part of a 3-piece set from OXO. I've got it linked in the description box if you're in the market for a new spatula. Next to the room temperature sour cream, we'll add in some granulated sugar, along with chopped cilantro. And we'll whisk this together to get it evenly incorporated. And that looks nice and evenly incorporated, so we are ready to assemble our batter. So I'm going to use my spatula to just make a well in the middle of the dry ingredients. We'll pour in all of the wet. And then we're also going to scrape in our slightly cooled corn, bacon, and aromatic mixture. Starting in the center and working outward, I'm just going to slowly stir this together until everything's evenly combined. We'll do a couple quick folds here just to make sure that there's no unincorporated dry bits. And so you can see the batter is quite loose. However, it does look evenly incorporated, so I think we're in good shape. Before we're ready to bake the batter, though, we do need to heat up our skillet and get it re-greased. So I'm going to pop this over medium heat just for 1 minute. And after 1 minute, we're going to drop in 2 tablespoons of butter and just melt those down. All right, so that just took about a minute to get the butter melted down in our hot skillet. So I'm just gonna swirl this around to get an even coating. Trying to get up all the way high on the edges. And then we're just gonna scrape the batter in here. So I'm gonna just drop this down right in the center. And then just using that same spatula, I'm just going to spread the batter out to get an even layer. You can see there's a ton of butter in this pan, so I think we're going to have a nice flavor here. So I'm going to pop this into our preheated 425 degree oven for 20 to 25 minutes until it's golden brown, puffed, and starting to crack on top. My cornbread baked for a total of 28 minutes. I let it cool in the pan for 10 minutes before turning it onto a wire rack, and this is the end result. So you can see the surface has a nice golden brown presence. Looking at the profile view, you can see that this is absolutely loaded with all that good stuff. There's so much stuff inside of this cornbread that it really feels like half cornbread, half other stuff, which is an interesting concept for cornbread. I've never had something that was this loaded before. It looks beautiful. The texture inside looks super moist, despite my not liking that word necessarily, but let's give it a try. Wow. There is a lot of stuff happening in here. Ooh, and the little bit of spice hits you kind of on the back end. The corn in here is such a perfect addition. I'm a huge fan of kernels of corn in my cornbread. Little bursts of moisture and flavor. It's absolutely wonderful. So gorgeous. You can see it's still a little bit warm. So there is enough moisture in here where I don't need a glass of milk. I don't need a bowl of chili. I don't need to slather it in honey butter to moisten it up to not choke on it. So this is a really kind of 180 from a traditional cornbread, but I think that's kind of a win, depending who you are and what you want this for. If you're going to a Southern barbecue, don't take this. You're going to get run out of town. But if you're looking for a cornbread that's really tasty, it's got kind of the essence of a cornbread, but has some other cool stuff going on, 100% this is absolutely delicious. This versus Molly's extra corny muffins, no comparison. This is like 10,000 times better. There's so much more happening here though. Even though there's a lot going on, it wasn't a challenging recipe. So super beginner friendly, really tasty, and I hope you give it a try. So I hope you enjoyed this week's video. If you did, please be sure to give me a big thumbs up and click subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week.